Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas, on Thursday, November the 13th, and welcome to our commentary. I just wanted to say this very quickly. This story that we're learning out of California, where they have apparently they've discovered something like 16,000 people, commercial drivers. That is, I'm not talking about individuals or school bus drivers. I'm talking about these commercial trailers that you see on the highway. I mean, we see a bunch of them in Texas. I mean, we go to Houston or San Antonio, and our highways here are full of these because they're moving commerce, of course, and that's good. The fact that they're moving commerce is a good thing. But the least you expect as a citizen is that your state is putting safety first and not political correctness first. That's the least you expect out of a state. And when you have this situation in California, and then the governor of California is like, well, I didn't know, or, what's going on? I mean, that's not a very good selling point if you want to be president of the United States. You ought to assume the responsibility for this and say, you know what, you're right. We're not respecting common sense here in California. And I'm going to look into it because I'm going to fire a bunch of people who are issuing these licenses. But this is very dangerous. We're not, we're talking about public safety. One of those huge trailers, if you have an accident or a car crashes with one of those people, or one of those guys doesn't know what he's doing, you're talking about people dying. You're talking about, potentially families being killed in the highways. So this is really an oversight on the part of the state of California. And you have to wonder, how does this happen? How does this happen? How does a state allow this to happen? Well, there's only one way, and that is they've lost control. And that's what I fear is the story here. I'm pretty sure that the governor didn't sit there and say, okay, I'm going to sign this law so that you issue a bunch of, commercial driver's licenses to people who can't even speak the language. I don't think he did that. But there's no control because the government of California, especially the bureaucracy, is populated by a bunch of people who think that they can get away with anything because it's a one-party state. And that's what I think is going on. So it's a very, very difficult situation. And I understand the federal government is going to get involved. They need to get involved. The Secretary of Transportation needs to get heavily involved in this. And if necessary, take money away from California. And maybe even hold some people indict some people for this reckless threat to public safety. Again, we're not talking here about little school buses, okay? We're talking about trailers, major trailers, who are up and down our highways. And living here in Texas, I know what I'm talking about because every time we go to Houston or we go even inside the Metroplex in our highways, you see these trucks. They're huge. And the least you expect is that the state government issuing these licenses and permits is doing it in a responsible way. Obviously, you're going to have an accident from time to time. That's unfortunate. But when you see what's happening in California, man, if there is a state in our union that needs to be turned upside down, is the beautiful state of California, because it is completely a mess what's happening out there. Well, anyway, let me get to our other stories. I have a post over at the American Thinker today talking about what is happening in New York City and in the state of New York, where the governor has already come out saying, no, I'm not going to let you have free buses. And I guess she's probably going to come out and say, I'm not going to let you do a lot of things, grocery stores and so on. And again, this is, and we saw a little bit of this yesterday when some Democrats went over and voted to end the shutdown, and you saw the reaction of Democrats calling them traitors and everything. There is a huge fight coming inside the Democrat Party, and there's no way to stop it now. I think for a while there they thought they could, keep it behind the curtain. No. Now, this is going to be in the open. This is going to get vicious. And, our friend Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda, who joins us usually once a week, he said many, many times, and Bill, he used to be a Democrat back when Kennedy was running. So he's been around for a while and he knows the Democrat Party. And he says that he doesn't even recognize the party anymore and that he's kind of surprised that there hasn't been a third party movement. I think we're reaching that point right now. If you're a centrist Democrat, you may want to consider forming a different party because this party that you've invested all your years in, this is not, as they like to say, your grandfather's party. No, this is Mandani's party. And now he's got a new mayor in Seattle, a young woman out there who's never done anything in her life. She's supported by her family. And now she's the mayor of the city of Seattle. This is crazy what's happening in the Democrat Party. And all I can tell you is, as I said a few minutes ago, the curtain is open. If anything good happened out of this shutdown, is that the curtain has been opened and the whole world is going to see this terrible conflict within the Democrat Party. And it's not going to be pretty. It's going to become very, very vicious. These people are going to go after each other and wait until they start doing primaries. Wait until they start doing primaries against these Democrats who voted, who had the common sense to cross over and end the shutdown. Again, just because you want to end the shutdown, it doesn't mean that you agree with the president, Trump, or the GOP. It just means you want to end the shutdown so you can have a debate. Okay, that's all that it means. It doesn't mean that you love President Trump or that you're going to support whatever Republican idea that there is. It's simply a way of saying, okay, let's negotiate and let's talk. That's all that it means. And that it took this long to get here, man, it's absolutely insane. But last night, 6 Democrats in the House jumped over and voted to end the shutdown. That is driving them crazy on the other side. And this is going to get vicious. I can just tell you. One of them, by the way, was Henry Cuellar, who is a Democrat representative in South Texas and Laredo. And Henry Cuellar is already familiar with the primary because they did it to him in 24. In 2024, they ran a primary against Henry Cuellar. And it was primarily because he was a huge critic of President Biden's border policy. Huge critic of President Biden's border policy. He says, this is crazy. We're not checking people. We're letting people in. This is crazy. And they went after him. And they almost defeated him in the primary. I mean, you're talking about one of the established politicians in Texas, and he had to fight for his life. Came within 1,000 or 1,500 votes of being defeated by one of these AOC types. So if they did it to Henry Cuellar, they're going to do it to a lot of people. So 2026 is going to be the year of the primaries, Democrat primaries. And that situation in that party is going to get ugly, really, really ugly. Just mark my words for that. They're in a mess. They're in a total, complete mess. But what happens to the Democrat Party now? I think that's going to be the story of 2026. And I guarantee you that it's going to get ugly. That much I'll tell you. How ugly? Well, we will see. But this is not going to be pretty. These people are vicious who are going after these centrist Democrats. And that's why I say, I mean, to remind you again of what my friend Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda, said, he's surprised that there isn't another party. And I am too, in a way. But if you're a centrist Democrat, you better start getting together among yourselves and saying, you know what, this is crazy. We got to get us a different party here. Okay, or you're going to have to make an effort to drive these people out of your party and tell them, hey, if you want to be a radical socialist, Democrat Socialist Party, you don't belong here. That's another party. Form your own party, because I don't see a happy ending to any of this. Just a quick note about Texas. As you know, we have our own primaries next year. We also have elections in 26. President Trump came out yesterday and endorsed Governor Abbott for governor. Not a surprise. I think the governor is running for the 4th time for governor. He's hoping to be governor for the 4th time. He's always won very easily, and I expect him to win easily again in 26. He's been a good governor. So I expect him to do well again in 26. Right now, there isn't really a major Democrat running against him, and I don't really expect one to be running against him. So he's likely going to be reelected as he has before. A couple of things on this day in history. We remember Buck O'Neill. Buck O'Neill, who was one of the great baseball players of the Negro Leagues. That was what used to be in Major League Baseball before Jackie Robinson. There was something called the Negro Leagues where the black players would play. And the Negro Leagues actually turned into an amazing business story. And Buck O'Neill was the manager and a player as well of a team called the Kansas City Monarchs. And they were known as the Yankees of the Negro Leagues. They were a fantastic team that just had tremendous superstars. And they would fill the stadiums. I mean, there were cities where the black team or the Negro League team would actually outdraw the white team because they had so many great players. So Buck O'Neill, one of the great players of the Negro Leagues. And by the way, if you remember that documentary that they ran on PBS a few years ago called Baseball, he was a frequent contributor to that documentary. It was absolutely great. Buck O'Neill, we remember him. He was born in this day in 1911, passed away in 2006. And another quick thing, too, today we remember in 1982 that the Vietnam War Memorial was dedicated. And that was something that was really needed to heal the memory of that war, the Vietnam War. So the memorial was dedicated. President Reagan dedicated it, and it was a very emotional moment. And that is the memorial where you can go and actually see the name of the 57,000 or so who were killed in that war. Great thing to do if you're ever in Washington, D.C., and you want to see some of the monuments. That's one that you need to see, the Vietnam Memorial. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good day, everybody.